this is an artificial intelligence. Of course, it's nowhere near intelligence as far as a biologist would think, but it's probably closer to intelligence as an engineer thinks. That sounds like an insult. I didn't mean it like that. This is Chat GPT. This is the latest iteration of OpenAI's natural language chatbot. And it's been trained on a huge data set, probably most of the internet, but a couple of years ago, as in the information that was present a couple of years ago. So it's a couple of years out of date. So if you ask it anything about current news, I don't think it's going to be able to cope with that. But if you wanted to study anatomy, if you needed a study buddy, if you needed somebody to help you explain complicated neuroscience terms, this might be the future. What is all the fuss about chatbots and AI at the moment? And this is a thing it's had huge investment. It's been developing step by step over the last few years. And just in this last week, it seems everybody's gone mad. Chat GPT has been demoing. It's been like the biggest online thing ever. Microsoft have then jumped out and said, hey, we're using Chat GPT with Bing on Edge in the future. You can sign up for this. It's going to be great. Google jumped out with their AI saying, hey, we've got something called Bard. It's going to be great. I'll talk more about that in a moment. But what we're getting here is I'm able to ask questions in a natural way. It understands that. And it's not just copy-pasting Wikipedia, although it might not be far off that. It is giving me the answer that I need in a concise and yet maybe complete way. We never really know, do we? Okay, so when I'm studying neuroscience, when I'm studying neuroanatomy, my biggest difficulty is I'm reading through the text. It's like, yeah, okay, I got it, and then a word gets dropped. I don't know what that word means. I go and look up to see what that word means, and then I have to read around that to better understand it. And then that leads me to other words I don't know. I have to go around and understand those. And then once I've got all that, I go back to my original source, carry on down that paragraph, and then I finally get it. It's a very, very slow way to learn. Wouldn't it be great if you could just ask somebody anytime, what does that word mean? And they'd give you a concise explanation and you could carry on learning. It really could speed up learning or knowledge acquisition, rate of knowledge acquisition, if you wanted to be fancy. You'll notice in my previous question, I actually used the wrong word and it coped with that. It's pretty impressive. So it remembers the conversation. It remembers what we've been talking about and it continues on from there. I mean, there are a number of questions surrounding this, right? Like the art AI bots that are creating art from other people's art. Does this have a similar argument? Where's this information coming from? Should the authors be appropriately cited? Or, we're talking about science here. This is the sum of human knowledge. This should be widely spread and shared and distributed, and people should have easy access to this. So is this appropriate? Is this just continuing the sort of thing that Wikipedia is trying to do? I like that it's saying wide range of symptoms. This is the sort of thing that anatomy teachers can struggle to describe concisely because it does cause a wide range of symptoms and the same symptoms are popping up here. Yeah, this is very helpful. What artery because we were talking about strokes. You know, sure, it talks about, well, it highlights vertebral arteries, it mentions basilar artery. Oh, that's okay, it's okay. You know, it's a concise answer, isn't it? There's always going to be more detail to this sort of thing. When I was a kid, and when I was in school, we had like, well, there's one textbook, there was like one book for subjects, right? It's probably similar in school nowadays. If you needed to do research, you would look into an encyclopedia. Maybe your family had a collection of encyclopedias. The school had a library, which would be somewhat limited, but you could go to other libraries nearby, physical libraries with physical paper books in them, and you could look for the books that you wanted to do your research, but to be honest, there's probably only 1 or 2 books in there. When you go to a university, everything expands even further than that. But we often did rely on a single source of information to try to research a topic and write about it. With the internet and with, well, I mean, today we've got search engines, we've got information everywhere. You've got access to original research online, you've got access to abstracts, if not that. You can read a wide range of sources, you can look at multiple sources, you can pull all that information together and make a decision in your head as to what is the most likely correct description, answer, reasoning, structure. You don't have to just rely on a single source and accept that it's true. Is this similar? Is this looking at multiple sources and compiling that and giving the most reliable answer as the answers that are most commonly encountered? Or is there a different weighting pattern to that? I don't know. I mean, to be honest, the amount I've used this so far, it's been pretty good. It's like Wikipedia. Wikipedia for anatomy is really good because I think it's been built and curated by anatomists. But just like textbooks have errors in them, believe it or not. And then when they release new versions of textbooks, they fix those errors and new errors get incorporated, not intentionally. When I'm speaking, when I'm teaching at work, I make mistakes, particularly if I'm talking all day and my brain gets tired. I say all sorts of ridiculous things. I mean, there are some people who make videos on YouTube about science topics just because it sounds like they know what they're talking about. Should you trust what they're talking about, or should you use multiple resources and your own brain to work out the facts? The answer is that one. Now, I don't think this is going to take my job. Because he can't do pictures yet. So we can't take a foot. Oh, clever clogs. Sure, yeah, right. So you can't grab a picture of the foot and point at the bones of the foot and teach me about the bones of the foot. But nonetheless, Chat GPT is telling me all about the bones of the foot. It's not telling me where I don't know where they are. You know, I've got the names, they've been kind of loosely described. If I had that description and I had a model of the bones of the foot, I couldn't work out which bone was which. The heel bone I could. And then the phalanges that make up the toes I could. But otherwise, no. What about quizzes? Ask me... Whey! Oh, what? Okay. What should we say? Heart attack? Okay. Okay. That's pretty cool. That's really impressive. He asked me a free text question. I answered. And then it determined whether I was right or not. And then it described the answer to me. You know, I'd love to do that in online quizzing. And I can't do it because it's really hard. You know, automating it like this. Oh, I mean, there's loads of them. That's not a great question. It's not. I mean, that's an essay question, isn't it? Pretty much. Seems obvious when you put it like that, Chat GPT. It remembers that I'm talking about medical students. goes into detail, tells you where it attaches, more detail, overuse. You know what I mean? This is, if a student was asking me a question, that's the sort of answer that I give, because this is the sort of question I get asked, and that is the sort of answer that I give. Okay, let's turn it back the other way. These are questions I love asking students. Well, let's stick with upper limb. Oh, this is a tricky one. Let's do what nerve innervates the thumb, because what does that mean? It's a bad question, right? Sensory, motor. And that's exactly what I want medical students to remember. Thumb, median nerve. Keep it simple, lump it all together. Most of the movements of the thumb are median nerve. Most of the sensation of the thumb is median nerve. There's loads, there's a lot more detail to the thumb. Tell me more. But how much does a medical student need to know versus how much does a surgeon need to know? So now let's talk about median and ulnar nerve, because of course adductor pollicis, right, is ulnar nerve. We've also got these muscles back here which move the thumb. So there's always more, isn't there? But it's the same with a textbook. When you're writing a textbook, you have to choose what to include, what to leave out. I don't really see much difference here. I think we all accept there's more. But what do we need to know right now? What does a hand surgeon need? Hey, I'm doing surgery tomorrow. What should I know? You should have a comprehensive understanding. Yeah, crack on. You should have done this by now. Okay. Make sure you know your bones. Thenar muscles, interosseous muscles. Interosseous muscles? What? So the interosseous muscles do that, right? It's giving concise, helpful answers. I see this like as an adjunct to your learning. I see your other resources. You're going into the lab and you're studying. You're having your teaching, you're studying, you're using cadavers, and then you're also using a textbook or your favourite online resource, or you're using your CG app, and then you're using this to help you keep moving along in your understanding and your knowledge, so you don't get tripped up by things, because that's what slows us down in learning, is when we get stuck on something. If this just keeps you moving along, I think that'll be really useful. Now, because this was trained on information that's a couple of years old, that's particularly suitable for anatomy, because anatomy knowledge is hundreds of years old. Sure, there is recent knowledge, but most of the anatomy that you need to know about, it's not changing. It's not latest up-to-date science, and even if it is, it's slow moving. Us anatomists are kind of slow moving these days. I think if I was doing a research project on this, hey, there's an idea. I think one of my main questions would be, I'd get students to use this and I'd ask them, do you feel supported? Do you feel better supported by this? Does it make a difference? All those other caveats that I've mentioned, using multiple sources of information, other methods of learning, they still hold true. This doesn't replace any of that, it augments it. Yeah. I think it could be very helpful, and I think it is the future, because we've seen the race in the last couple of weeks for this technology getting integrated into different things, because Chat GPT has become so effective. So it is going to be part of your future. I mentioned Google and Bard. Google said, hey everybody, we've been working on our own AI as well. It's really good, honest. It's called Bard. It's going to be out really soon, so we're still the future of search. Don't listen to anybody else. And they tweeted an example of asking a Bard a question and getting an answer, and it was about the James Webb Telescope, and the answer said that the James Webb Telescope was the first telescope to find an exoplanet, or to take an image of an exoplanet. And I thought, when I read that, I thought, no, that's not right. I remember that being done by another telescope. And the answer was wrong. So they tweeted this. This was their advert for their future, for AI, for Bard. and it was the wrong answer, and nobody had noticed. Everybody in Google took that as read. Other people reading it did question it, looked it up, found out it was the wrong answer, pointed that out. That knocked Google's share value by about 9%, which was that adds up to tens of billions of dollars. They made an error using their AI chatbot, and that knocked about $100 billion, I think, off the value of Alphabet, their parent company. So be warned.